So welcome everybody. This is the fifth webinar in the series, Meet Success, and tonight we have with us our guest panelist, Sajid. So hi there Sajid, how are you going?
Good, thank you.
Good, and Sajid's joining us from Melbourne as well, so we're both located in Melbourne, and for those of you who are overseas, it's 8 p.m. here, so in the evening on quite a cool winter's evening. Let's just start off. We'll come back to Sajid in a moment and we'll have a long chat. But before we do, just a few housekeeping measures. For those of you who haven't attended a webinar before, you'll have a control panel that you'll see. And what you need to do if you want to post a question, just type in the box where it says type question here and click send or press enter. Now that control panel is quite large. If it's too big for your screen, you can minimize it by clicking on the arrow in the orange rectangle, that icon on the top left, and that will minimize it to a toolbar, as you see there on the right. Then if you want to post a question, simply click on the arrow again and the control panel will expand and you'll be able to post your questions again. So please post questions anytime. Maurizio's here, Rajiv's put in a post already. As the questions come up, I'll start asking them. If they're relevant to what we're talking about at the time, I'll ask them immediately, or I might come back to them at a later stage. Now we do have 60 people registered, so hopefully we'll get through all of the questions. The direction of the conversation will depend on what the questions are. We have a guided series of questions that will help Sajid and I have a chat, but please feel free to ask any questions that you may have. Okay, we start off with a few questions, questions for you, just to get an idea of who's out there. So the first one I'm going to launch is where are you? If you could just indicate whether you're in Melbourne, regional Victoria, interstate or overseas. And I'll wait until 90% of people have voted and I'll post that up so you can all see where everybody is listening from. 80%, 85, a few more seconds. Just post your vote when you get a chance. I'm about to close it off and I'll share those results. Okay, 56 in Melbourne, 25 interstate, and we have nearly 20%, 19% overseas. So those of you who are overseas, welcome, special guests. And please, if anybody out there has any advice for people who are intending to come, feel free to post your comments as well as suggestions as well. Okay, let's hide that one. And the next question, are you in Australia working in your profession, in Australia not working in your profession, or overseas and planning to come? If you could just vote on that one, just to get an idea of what your situation is. Another couple of seconds, 85% voted, 92. Okay, I'll close that one off and share the results. Okay, so about half of the people looking for work here and looking for work. So 24% are in Australia working in your profession. Now, you people out there are valuable to those who don't have work. So please feel free to post comments. Also tell us your experience if it's similar or different to what Sajid has experienced, and that's useful for the rest of us to know as well. Last question, what is your profession? So are you in banking, finance or accounting, anything involved with money, engineering, IT, sciences or other? Okay, looks like we have, I'll just share that, 3/4 of attendees this evening are in IT. So if you want to ask technical questions, that's fine. The majority of you out there will be able to understand the responses, so that could be useful as well. All right, let's get into the actual presentation. So back to Sajid. So Sajid, just to kick off, can you just tell us when you came to Australia?
Yes, so I'm approximately 2 months away for completing my 2 years. So I landed back in 2014, August, So this year, August, I'll complete my 2 years.
Yep. Okay. And what's your job title, Sajid?
So I'm a business analyst with my group IT department.
Yep. And what's your typical day? Tell us what you do on a daily basis.
So generally, on a daily basis, usually I go out and meet my clients. There are various clients from various verticals. I meet the clients, understand their requirements, what they want us to develop solutions about, what are their bottlenecks, what are the different improvements they want to look for, what are their, especially in Australia, all the organizations are adapting towards the digital technologies. So a lot of companies are doing digital transformations. So generally, a lot of things are around moving out the business towards the digital space. My industry is about managing user experience, which involved handling voice calls, handling web chats, handling different kind of emails and other channels. So the client's queries are generally about how efficiently and quickly they can handle their customers. And based on those conversations, I usually try to analyze the features and the problem statements which are shared with me. Then I sit with my technical team members, trying to draft solutions, going back to the customers, getting a sign-off, and getting it deployed and handed over to my IT operations team.
Okay, so it's a client-facing role. Now, these are notoriously difficult for overseas-born professionals to secure. So you've done very well there, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that in a moment. So what size is your employer, small, medium, or large?
So I'll say it's about medium.
Yep.
Yeah, medium-sized organization.
And what are the challenges you face in your job? What are the tough things?
So as you mentioned, that it is a very front-facing role, and the main challenge is to understand my client's business, because as a business analyst, you have to meet people from different background. One day you're talking with a rail customer, other day you're talking with a retail customer, the next day you're talking to a mobile company, and the other day you're talking to someone who's trying to sell courses to students. So the business domains vary, so you need to make sure you understand your customer's business, and then accordingly you can suggest solutions.
So are there some domains that you feel more comfortable with than others?
So definitely I've worked more into the digital space and into the telecom industry. So all those clients who comes with that area, I am more comfortable. I've never worked in a retail sector or in a metro situation. So those are the areas which I need to work hard, understand their business models and how they make money and how we can handle and serve their customers.
So this is it's a great natural professional development for you to have exposure to all of these different domains, would you say?
Yes, correct. Yeah. So being a business analyst, this is how you learn the various verticals, and then what are the common thing between all the businesses, how they try to handle their customers, and then you can suggest the best practices from one industry and implement it across the other industry, or it's other way around, the problems which are being faced by one industry, you can just suggest the same to the another industry, and it's a win-win situation for yourself as well as the organization.
Yep, great. And what's the most rewarding aspect of your job, or what do you enjoy doing?
So coming from a technical background, the most enjoyment is to provide solutions and see my clients really happy. So if you are trying to solve a problem and it is giving benefit to the client, I feel really happy that my solution or my suggestion has worked out and the client has implemented. It's being bringing useful and productive results for my customers.
Yeah, great. And what would you say the essential skills are for your job? And do you see them changing in the future, and how do you keep up to date?
Yeah, so with the advancement in technology happening so fast that, you know, if you master one tool, the next day it is absolutely outdated, and to keep up pace for the organizations, the employees and the tools you use need to be updated as well. What we are trying to practice is the agile methodologies, especially Scrum, which is very popular around technology businesses. It helps you in getting the MVP products, which are known as the minimal viable product, so that you know, you roll out the key features of your product and see how they work, and based on the feedback you can improve and go ahead. So how do I see changing future? It's more towards now the Agile and Scrum, which is being implemented across all kind of industries. So it's no more a tool which is used by the software development houses. And keeping up to date, I generally attend a lot of networking sessions happening. If there are a few topics which I don't understand or something very new and innovative, I make sure I join those meetups. I try to become part of those networking sessions, attend few conferences, and keep myself updated.
So these are face-to-face meetups, or are they online?
So it depends and it varies. Sometimes if these are happening in Melbourne, I try to go there and attend face-to-face. There are two advantages. You tend to meet new people from your own profession. You build your network. And if the topic is very nice and if it's broadcasted from USA or Europe, I try to jump on a webinar and try to understand what's the new technologies, how we can use it in our environment.
Okay, great. So keep the questions coming in. If you have any questions for Sajid, please just post them using the question box on your control panel. We have one from Rochelle who is asking, were you supposed to have relevant certifications, for example, CBAP, in order to secure your job?
So again, it depends. If you're coming from with a background having enough experience doing the business analysis work, so you can get a job very easily if you can prove that you have mastered this skill, and if you join the organization, you will continue your expertise and bring them in and grow. Certifications help you in getting shortlisted for the job interview, and it's an indirect check from the employer side as well that they're getting a certified person. In my experience, it's about 50-50. Most of the people don't ask for a certification. There are very few who have specific demand. Then they ask for a CBAP, which is basically you need to have quite a number of years of experience to attain that certification.
So if you don't have a CBAP, you said that you have to be able to convince the employer that you have the skills acquired through experience. How do you do that in an interview situation or in a job application situation?
Yeah, so generally the interview style in Australia is about the different behaviors or different examples you need to share on how you are using your business analysis skill, how you document requirement, how you go and meet your client. Do you do some record search? Do you go and conduct some interview sessions? Do you sit at the client side, observe how the work is being done? What kind of artifacts you are generating? Do you understand what's a traceability matrix? Do you know what is BPMN2? If you're a business analyst in a process area, do you know how to create as-is processes and suggest to-be processes and document them using various tools in the trade? What's the difference between the waterfall methodology and the Scrum? What's the difference between use cases and user stories? What is a user acceptance testing? So once you go through this interview process, generally the employer asks you these kinds of questions, and you need to share examples from your past experience, how you have employed these skills and worked with your client and with your employer.
I think that's a really critical point, the one about providing examples. So even with job applications and also interviews, it's not enough just to talk about something. You have to explain through examples. So that's a really good suggestion, Sajid. Rajiv is asking, Sajid, according to you, how important is the communication skill for a BA role? So maybe comparing it to the technical side and the people side, given it's a client-facing role, requirement gathering and so on. How important is that?
I think this is one of the key pillars of the business analyst role, because you are going there and you are the front face in gathering the requirements, which is basically the scope of the deliverable. So if you're not able to communicate, if you are not able to ask the relevant questions, because the end user will give you high-level scope, and the end user will have a lot of assumptions in their mind, and if you don't understand and if you are not prepared to ask the relevant question, you will not get your answers, and when you deliver your product, it will have some gaps. So the communication is one of the key roles, how you go and meet the customers, how the conversation is started, how you can take the conversation from a serious note to a lively environment where you are very open up and you can ask all kind of questions so that you are very sure that you have covered all of your queries, and then run various requirements workshops, go and present solutions, write informative emails, ask questions, conduct the requirements reviews, solution reviews, and then try to make sure that you come back with all this information and share it with your technical team members who are not there and who are depending on your observation, your thought process, and they will deliver us a solution which you have thought of. So maybe if not worked properly, if you're not communicated your questions properly, you'll not get the relevant answers, and you may end up delivering a product which is not useful to the client.
Right, yeah, good. A question from Jagan. I am a storage admin. How is the storage job availability there, especially EMC storage?
Yeah, so a lot of organizations are moving towards the cloud space, especially using the Amazon and the Microsoft Azure. So the data centers which were usually run by specific organizations, so they are fading away, and clients are moving towards the cloud providers so that they don't have to manage their own in-house data centers. So with these cloud providers, if you know the new cloud technologies around the virtualization and the various cloud platforms, there are opportunities, and this area, especially towards the cloud, it is a growing trend, and I feel in the coming days most of the organizations will just use cloud providers, and they'll use their services instead of their standing or creating their own solutions.
So just as an extension from Jagan's question, if you don't have cloud experience, what would you suggest for somebody to get some without having worked in the area? Is there any way they can do that?
Yes. Fortunately, both Amazon, Google, and Microsoft, they are running free programs. You can go and register with Amazon, Google, or Microsoft. Even Microsoft has a very comprehensive plan. They are sharing their technical videos as well and technical material. So you'll get access to their cloud platform. You can go and deploy various databases, where application servers, and whatever you have been doing on standalone systems, you can go and practice on the online systems. I've even seen people going and purchasing subscriptions so that they can just do some test runs and try to build up their capabilities. So even if you don't have an infrastructure, I've seen Microsoft, Google, and Amazon, all of them offering free subscriptions for a limited time so that you can just play around and build up your technological gaps.
Yep. Okay. A question from Vinay. How are the prospects for bid managers in Sydney? Any idea?
What manager can you?
Bid, B-I-D. Are you aware of what this is? Vinay, you might want to, pre-sales, he's saying. Yeah.
Pre-sales,
yep.
Yeah. So again, with the technology, I see and meet a lot of pre-sales people, but you need to understand, for the sales, you need to understand the local environment, and you need to have some local expertise. Otherwise, it's a bit hard to go out and find new customers if you don't understand the market dynamics, and if you don't understand what's the current market needs. So it is there, and but it will be something to work towards.
So really tough to get initially, you think, without local experience.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Izaz has asked a question, how do you take notes? I'm not sure if that's a question to me or to you. Does that make any sense to you in the context or not?
Yes. So maybe if during my requirement sessions, if this is being asked, usually I keep a notepad and pen, and based on my own question set, I try to get my replies, and then if there is some existing material available, there are certain flowcharts or current processes available, I try to get a copy of those, or I request my client to send me the soft copies. And once I am back in my office, I recompile all of my thought processes and send it back to my customer to verify and validate that whatever we have discussed, it means the same to me. So this is a common thing in our communication, that if we are having one kind of a thought process, I may register something which you have told me in a very different context. So it is always good to get a verification and finalize it with your customer before doing anything.
It's interesting that we still use pen and paper in this digital age, isn't it? Sometimes you can't replace that tactile nature of being able to write something down quickly, to scribble, to do a drawing, a diagram. It's still very convenient, don't you agree?
Yeah, it is. Sometimes if the customer allows you, you can just record the session as well. So you can use your mobile and record it. But generally, people don't like that sort of a thing because it becomes so formal, and you don't want to get into that environment with somebody you need to work for a few months and get those details.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a real test of your communication skills, isn't it, to make sure you've clearly understood what they want and what they need, yeah?
Correct, yes, 100%.
Mm. Do you ever find that clients are not completely sure about what they actually need or want?
This is very common, and this is everybody who has an idea, he starts off with his thought process, and then once you start asking the structural questions, and because if you are talking about one isolated item, it's very easy, but once you look at it from an organizational perspective, you need to build an ecosystem to support that initiative. So then many times I have attended a lot of sessions where the client is very excited, and as soon as after 1 hour or 2 hours we ended up the session, we never hear back from them because they never thought of the various dimensions that they'll come across. And this is the value add you do to your clients when you're working as a business analyst. So it's not a one-way thought process. Generally, you are doing a consultancy sort of a thing, so you need to share your expertise and ideas with the customer. And many times the customer will ask you that, we are thinking about these kind of features. What do you think? Have you seen anything like this working? And what were the results? So.
Yeah. So in many ways, the process is helping your client sometimes realize what they actually need as opposed to what they thought they need, correct?
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, we have another question. Let's have a look. Dhruv has asked, is VMware equally good for cloud systems?
Yeah, I've seen it with being used and talked about by various solution providers. So it has a demand and need.
Yeah, okay. Another one from Rochelle. Now, this is a really interesting one because a lot of my clients have BA/PM. This is their job title. So does your role require you to be a BA only, or does it involve PM as well? Reason I'm asking this is because most often these roles are combined as BA knows exactly what client requires, so implementation becomes easier. What do you think about that, Sajid?
Yeah, so nowadays there's a discussion because I'm very passionate about the project management, and there's a discussion that project management is now more of a life skill. So everybody who's doing whatever, they need to understand the basic fundamentals of project management. So even if you are doing business analysis job, you need to make sure you're prepared, you're planned your requirement sessions, you understand what are the different risks, what are the different assumptions you are making. So at times you need to work with your team members, get them agreed to the solution or the requirements and explain them what's the real need and the value will be generating for the customer. So I've worked in both the spaces as a pure project manager and as a pure business analyst. So once you're running a project, you're more focused on the end-to-end project delivery. Once you're working as a business analyst, you're more focused towards the solution and what is the actual need of the customer. You'll not be focused on how and when it will be delivered. So it's a different phases, and yes, you need to have, if you have both the skill set, it generally helps you.
Yeah, great. A question from Waylin. Hi Sajid, your answer is quite informative, thank you. From your comment, I think you have a structured script for asking the right questions to the customers in order to get the required information you put in the business proposal. Is that right? Is it coming from your experience or from the BA tool?
So the BA tools guides you to prepare your tool set. So just like any trade person who carries a toolbox. So as a business analyst, you need to have a toolbox. And I always try to make sure I take the most out of any client sessions. Generally, you tend to meet 6-7 people, and getting all of these people available in one room for a few hours, it is very difficult. So I try to make sure I capture or think of all the various kind of questions that I may ask. Generally, if you don't go prepared with your questions, in my experience as well, you forget to ask a lot of things, because during your discussions with the customer, you get deviated and you then forget the key points. So if you go ahead with a structured plan, it is always helpful, and especially even if you create a simple laundry list kind of a thing and just check your progress that you have covered most of the questions, then it should be good.
Yep. Okay. There's lots of questions coming through, so this is good. We'll try and keep it on what your needs are, so please keep posting questions and we'll just stick to asking those. Maurizio has asked a question which is sort of an extension of communication skills. How do you build rapport with clients? That means getting a good relationship going and making them feel comfortable with you.
Yeah. So the number one is try to build a trust. Try to make sure you follow whatever you are saying. Be honest in your thought process. Many times when you go out for the requirement sessions, people ask for solutions. People don't share what's the business need and why they need certain thing to be developed. So they very quickly jump into the solution mode, and then they'll start asking, can you do this or can you don't? So you have to tackle that problem very honestly upfront, and if you are very open and speak honestly with your customer, it gives you a lot of value, and the customer also understands that you're being honest, and then you can build upon your conversation and the relationship. And it's just like, if you meet someone for the first time, you try to break ice and try to go on a similar page where both of you can share something in similar.
What's an example of that, an icebreaker? What sort of thing helps build that rapport initially? First meeting with someone.
So it's very easy if you're in Melbourne. So the weather is the most famous question. That if you know, the weather in Melbourne changes 4 times a day, so you can talk about 4 times in a day, literally. And then it's a sporting country, especially footy. So if you've not seen yesterday's match and you went to the room, and they'll just say, okay, so how's your team doing, or what's the current scores? So you need to make sure you understand that dynamics. Whatever the sports you like, you need to know that, because something must be happening around Melbourne. So sports and weather are the most famous and widely used icebreakers.
Yep, great. Just before we go on to more general questions about how you got a job and some advice there, Raghavendra has a question. Hi Terry and Sajid, how do you address the gaps between business requirements and product implementation?
If I understand the questions correctly, generally you try to develop something for which you have the requirements, and it has to be based on the requirement set. Yes, once you have developed something, and if there are gaps, expectations are different from what you have delivered, you definitely need to modify your work, and you need to go ahead, and if it is completely wrong, people have to scrap it and build it from the very start. Or you do a gap analysis and find what are the different changes required, and you go along with the change process and get those changes implemented.
Right. We might combine 2 questions here from Abdul and Prasadi. What is the hiring procedure for IT jobs in Australia? And secondly, what helped you to get your first job interview in Australia before getting any local experience?
Yeah, so
this is a $1 million question, Sajid, you know that?
yeah, yeah. I think it needs. The first thing is if you are moving to a new area, a new country, a new city, you should come very well prepared. So as I mentioned earlier, project management is a life skill. If you plan your things, if you know what are the risks coming up, so it is really helpful. Coming here without any understanding or knowledge, it is really difficult, and you will see a lot of unexpected things, and you'll not believe that you're having 15 years of technical experience. You have managed a large number of clients. You have done very complex projects, but here you're not getting through. So it puts you onto a very negative mind frame, which is not a good state. So if you know what is your core strength, try to work onto the various job sites, especially the most famous in Australia is Seek, swk.com.au. Search and look for if there is a demand for your particular skill set. If there is a demand and they're asking for certain certifications in the technical background, go ahead, get the trainings done, get the certifications done before you move here, because you're moving into a new ground. And in your home soil, you can easily find trainers and can do the certification because you know a lot of people there. And so come prepared, plan out what you need to do, and if you are prepared and your groundwork is complete, then you can move into that direction and you can find your first job. I have seen a lot of people getting their first job without any local experience very easily, because before coming to Australia, they started their preparations well in advance. They understood the country culture, they understood the corporate communication, they understood what kind of interview process happens, what kind of questions the interviewer will ask, the recruiter will ask, the hiring manager will ask, and most of the time it is your own behaviors and it is your soft skills that are being valued instead of your technical and your educational degrees or certifications. So if you understand that what is a catch-up instead of a meeting, and what is an arvo instead of afternoon, so if you understand the various norms of the land, I can state and what kind of resume structure is required, what is a cover letter, what kind of cover letter is required, how you can highlight your key skills in response to a job ad. So these are the few things, not simple if when I came here, and still if I have to apply for a job, I have to spend few hours filling up the resume and the resume cover letter and understand what is the industry of the company, what is the job requirements, what are the job skill sets, how my job experience and my skill set match with them, because nobody has that amount of time that they will read 5 pages. They'll just read half a page, and in few seconds, if the words mentioned on the top of your resume or your cover letter gives the person the answer of the question they are looking for, you will definitely get a call. And if you're able to show that you have that relevant skill, there is no reason you'll not get a job without a local experience.
Yeah, particularly in IT. I mean, it's very transferable if you have reasonable communication skills. Those of you who are overseas joining us this evening are already doing your preparation by attending this webinar. So the things that Sajid mentioned, like getting your application documents prepared, doing your research before you depart, all really, really important pieces of advice from Sajid, so thanks for that. So just back to your situation, Sajid, with your interview and your applications, was there anything that clinched the deal for you, or was there something that allowed you to break in? You've mentioned preparation, understanding your position description, all of that, but is there anything else that actually got you the job?
I think the key was to understand the whole process, how everything happens, and especially coming from an outside world where more weightage is given to the technical side of your abilities, your technical degrees, and those kind of things, and less towards the soft skills and the team and the culture, what you're bringing in. So I think the key is to understand the whole ecosystem and where you fit in, how the whole process works, how it starts, what is the first step you need to do, how many interviews you need to handle, especially if you are from a technical background, for example, a database analyst, a DBA, a person from an apps background who support application servers. So all those technical positions, once you start your interview process, you will have to sit for a practical exam. They'll just give you a system, and you have to show the skills you have. If you are a software developer, you will be attending an interview and a test where you need to code certain things. If you are an application administrator, you will be given certain scenarios to show that you have the requisite skills. So if you're coming from a mind frame that you will never be asked any kind of things around doing hand-on work, so and once you go ahead in an interview and they say next day, can you do this kind of work, and you have 4 hours, and if you're not prepared, you'll definitely feel the pressure and you'll be stressed. So if you understand the whole ecosystem and you get guidance at the right time, at the very start, it will be really helpful.
Yeah. I think something else that you're very good at is being able to explain what you've done. So what I often hear from employers is that they're quite impressed with a resume, but when they actually meet the person, they don't sound like the professional on the piece of paper. You're very good at explaining what you've done clearly, succinctly, and in a professional manner. You'd say this is important as well?
Yes, definitely. So the paper is as you mentioned, is a virtual picture of you, and if the hiring manager has painted a very different picture and the day of the interview, if you're not able to do that, then you're in trouble. You will not get that. So again, preparation is the key, and generally the interview process here starts on a phone conversation. So if you're shy talking on a phone without face-to-face, you have to learn that very quickly. So once you clear up your phone interview, then you'll be given a chance to see the hiring manager face-to-face. Again, it all boils down to understanding your industry, your skills, and how you portray yourself.
Yeah, the phone is a really good point to bring up, because it's becoming increasingly more common that the first interview is a telephone screening interview, if you like, to basically check your communication skills and to save some time. So those of you who need to brush up on your telephone skills as well as general communication should be looking at that as an option. Okay, Wei Lin, the most difficult part of successfully acquiring a professional job is to get shortlisted and get the interview opportunity. What makes you stand out from hundreds of applications? In my experience, it's very hard to get shortlisted unless you have some acquaintance in the desired company. Do you agree, Sajid?
So I'll start with I'll start with when I got my job, I didn't knew anyone in the organization. I've never knew that that organization existed. So once I applied for the position and I was interviewed, and then I understood what kind of organization is that and what is the actual position. So the first step, as I mentioned, I go back to the point that you need to make sure your basic things are correct. You know what you are putting up in your resume. So if you are using one resume, one cover letter for all the jobs, so one size does not fit all. So you have to be very careful in reading the job description. There are a lot of things which are written there which are not the key selection criteria or the key skill the hiring manager or the organization is looking for. So if you're in your paperwork, it is not there, then you'll definitely not get a call. You need to understand how to write a resume which is as per the context of the job ad. As I mentioned earlier, still if I have to file for a job, I'll take 2 to 3 hours writing one job application resume and cover letter. So you have to make sure once somebody reads your cover letter or the resume, they should be very sure that yes, this is the guy we need to have because he carries the requisite skills.
Yeah, so a couple of things are happening there. One is that you're identifying jobs that are a good fit initially, correct?
Yes.
So that you can write a resume and a cover letter or whatever else is required for the application that's going to hit the target. That's the first thing. The second thing is quality over quantity. Now, you mentioned it would take you a couple of hours or more to write a good application. It's better to spend time on fewer applications than to send the same resume and cover letter off to 50 jobs. So you'll get more return for the hours you put in applying for a job that fits and one that is of high quality application documents, one that it contains. So Waylin's just followed up there with a follow-up question. Those vacancies are most likely to be filled within the company or by friends or insiders, especially in the telecom industry. The ads in Seek.com are sometimes HR formality only. So even if they are, there's nothing you can do about that. And yes, it is an advantage to have inside referrals, but I would suggest get some advice and let's analyse what's happening to your applications. Let's compare the position description with what you're actually drafting. And I'm sure with a bit of advice, you'll be able to improve your strike rate. First of all, identifying what jobs are a good fit, and then doing quality applications that actually target what the employer is looking for. Waylin has said, great answer. Thank you, Sajid. Okay, Vinay, another question on the rounds. How many rounds of interviews typically happens for business analyst roles before you are finally shortlisted?
Yeah, so it depends. If you're coming from a recruiter, then the recruiter will do his or her shortlisting on the phone. Then you're given a chance to come face to face, so it's a second interview. Then generally, in my experience, sometimes the hiring team will have a telephonic interview, and once they feel you've got a good communication, they will ask you to come over, and then you might be given certain scenarios as well to do some whiteboarding. You might be asked to draw some flow chart or explain what's the issue in a requirement or write some test case. So this will be a judge of your skills, and then you might get an assessment test as well. So it depends. Minimum, I think it is 3 to 4 interviews till you get your job.
So you have to be prepared for everything that they throw at you, basically, whether it's tests, whether it's behavioural questions, whether it's presenting something in a meeting. You have to have all these skills and ready to show them on demand, correct?
Yeah, yep.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Just back to certification again. Maurizio has asked, in your opinion, what are the relevant certifications that the job market asks for BA or IT positions? You talked a little bit about it before, that experience can substitute for certification, but if you do want to get a certification, what would you advise to get?
Yeah, as I mentioned, Scrum or the Agile is a very hot trend here. So if you can get the certified Scrum Master certification, so you'll definitely get some value out of it. If you're starting, then you can look at the IIBA tracks. For experienced people, it is CBAP, and I think for the junior people, if I'm correct, it is CCBA. So these certifications will definitely help you, and it will help you in getting your resume shortlisted. But after that, it is your skill and experience that you need to have and show them that you know this stuff. So certifications, yes, if you have done, that's good, but it will take you to a certain level.
Yep. Okay, we have about 5 minutes left, so if anybody has any final questions, please post them up. Just a general question about opportunities. Raghavendra has asked, how is the market in Australia for IT, especially software developers?
So, as I mentioned, the digital space is evolving, so a lot of work is being outsourced as well. So to a lot of software developers, software development work is being outsourced to Manila, China, and India, and Sri Lanka as well. But a lot of work is being done locally as well, especially in the apps market. And you need to do your own research. You have to search the various sites, just like I mentioned, seek.com.au, and understand what kind of IT skills they require. Do they require Java people? Do they require .NET? Do they require Angular? So what kind of frameworks and what kind of languages are in demand these days, and you have to prepare yourself accordingly.
So just on that outsourcing offshore, you don't see this as a major threat to the industry in general? You think Australia will be able to continue to sustain an employment market for local developers?
Yeah, so even if you are outsourcing your work, somebody has to manage it. So somebody has to get the work done. So generally it is in proportion of what you are doing. So if you are having a 50 people team, maybe your outsourced team is 100 people. So you need to have a balance between both sides. And generally, I've not seen some organization doing 100%. Even if they are doing some work, they need to have local people who are mostly taking the role of solution architects or technical business analyst or the system analyst, and driving the development work.
Okay. We might almost just about end up. Just a last couple of comments. I'm just whipping through some of the questions that we had planned, but we've had mostly questions from the audience, which is great. Waylin has just said, just to comment, Terry, Sajid is really a great candidate for such a webinar. Okay, very responsive and communication skill is great. Thank you for organising. So thank you, Waylin. And anybody out there who wants some assistance, please don't hesitate to contact. I'm happy to have a chat with anybody, whether you're in Melbourne, we can do it face-to-face or via Skype or GoToMeeting. Any of those options are possible. So as we finish up, Sajid, any parting advice that you could give to somebody about to start a new chapter in their life in Australia?
I think change is always good. If you are too comfortable, this means you're not exploring and doing new things. So challenge yourself, change your place, shake up your comfort zone, and if you come prepared and if you are mentally ready for a change, then definitely you will be able to settle down. You will be able to find a job, and you'll start a new life, which is very rewarding, and you'll enjoy the life here, especially the work-life balance, which is one of the key highlights of working in Australia.
Great. Okay, thank you for that, Sajid, and we'll come back to that in a moment. Okay, next week we have Sandesh, who is a test analyst, who will be joining us for the number 6 webinar in the series. It's a total of 16. I'm trying to get people of diverse background, but it really depends on who volunteers for these sessions. So up until now we've had some great guests. And so that's all for this evening, and I just want to take this last opportunity to thank Sajid. You've been a great guest and very informative. I think your clarity has been excellent, and if people have any questions for me, I can pass them on to Sajid, or you can get in touch with me directly. So please don't hesitate to make contact. So once again, thanks, Sajid, for your time, giving up your valuable evening on this cold winter night. Thank you, Sajid. Are you still with us?
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity, and nice to be here.
Thank you very much. And good night, everybody, and hope to see you all next week. Remember, a recording of this webinar will be uploaded tomorrow morning, and you'll receive a link to that recording. It's of the audio and the presentation. So good evening, sleep well, and see you all next week. Bye.